Today's video will be a class guide for the Sage class, or as many like to call it, the Rune Mage. I hope everybody's been well and enjoying their time on Outward. There's more Outward videos available on this channel, and as I always say, if you guys like rock or metal music, check out my band In Vice Versa from Bangkok, Thailand. Okay, let's get right into it. So the Sage class is a unique class. It's unlike any other magic class I've played in any other game, basically. If you guys like colors and you like magic, then this is the class for you. I'm going to show you guys what all the spells look like in and outside of combat, and we're also going to talk about what they do and what kind of effects they have on your character and how you go about casting them. So the first thing you need in order to cast rune magic is to have a lexicon in your hand, which is this book in my left hand right here. You can obtain a lexicon from the alchemist in each city in the game. Okay, so you're going to be using a lot of mana if you spec into this class, so I recommend getting an armor set such as the one that I have right now, the Gold Lich armor set, which reduces your mana cost when you cast a spell. You also might want to invest into the Philosopher class breakthrough passive skill. It's called LEYLINE Connection, and that will automatically regen your mana. I think it's 0.15 per second. As far as how many points to spec into mana, I would just start off with 2 to 3 from Mount Conflux, and then you can always go back to Mount Conflux and spec more into mana once you figure out that you actually need more, because it all depends on the type of armor you have and how many spells you're using and what order you're using them, etc. The Sage Trainer is in the city of Berg. I'm going to bring up the map, and I will mark him in red. Let's take a look at the skill tree now.
How can I help you?
And as you can see, the 4 bottom skills here are all a different color, and they're all each a different type of rune spell that you cast. We're not even going to talk about the names, we're just going to go purely by color to make it simple. You have basically a blue, purple, green, and an orangish yellow rune. Each of these spells on their own will not cast anything, so you have to cast one and then cast another right after in order to create a spell. And we're going to talk about all the possible combinations throughout this video right now. So the most basic spell that you can cast is casting blue to purple, which is going to basically give your character a buff. Casting blue to purple is going to give your character something called RUNIC protection, and it looks like this when you cast it. So the most basic form of this skill is going to give your character 180 seconds of physical resistance plus 15% and protection plus 2. If you actually invest fully into the tree and get something called the RUNIC prefix, the passive skill up here, which is described as all runic spells are more powerful or have added effects, your buff is now going to become more powerful, granting you plus 20% physical resistance, plus 3 protection, and then plus 10% for all other resistances. And that's it for blue to purple. It's pretty simple. Just cast it before you go into an engagement. So the next skill that you can cast is an instant heal. Now you're going to need 2 things before you're able to cast this spell. The first thing is a passive skill on the tree called ARCANE Syntax. It's described as gaining access to more advanced runic combos. So once you get through this passive skill, it's going to allow you to cast more spells than just the basic 4 at the bottom. Once you have ARCANE Syntax, you're now going to be able to cast the instant heal when you cast the correct rune combination. If you don't have ARCANE Syntax, you're not going to be able to do the instant heal at all. You're also going to need the runic protection buff active on your character. So casting blue to purple will give you the runic protection buff. And then after that, you can now cast purple blue and you will get an instant heal. So this instant heal consumes your runic protection buff, so you're no longer going to have that buff on your character, and it's going to heal you for, I think, around 40 HP. So if you don't really care about having the buff on your character and you just need that instant heal, you're going to have to cast blue-purple, then purple-blue, all as quickly as you can to get that instant heal. This is what it looks like in action. Okay, so you'll notice my health is probably about halfway. This is the instant heal, casting purple to blue. And now it's full. Now if you bought the passive skill of RUNIC prefix up on the top of the tree, then your instant heal is now going to instant heal you for 40 and then give you an additional of 2 health over 10 seconds, which is another 20 HP. So that's a really nice way of healing yourself without using a potion, and I think it's the most powerful heal in the game that is not consuming an item and actually just a character skill. Okay, on to the next one, which is creating a magical trap. casting orange to green places a magical trap on the ground that functions just like any other trap in the game. You just have to kite your enemy over to the trap and it will explode. This trap does area damage, so it's not just single target damage, which is nice. This is what it looks like in action. Now we're going to kite the enemies over to it. After you have the magic trap on the ground, the only way it's going to explode is if your enemy walks over it. However, if you have the passive skill Arcane Syntax, you can now manually detonate the trap by casting orange to orange. And that looks like this. One of the more cooler spells you can cast is summoning a magical sword. Casting orange to purple will summon the one-handed runic blade. This one-handed sword is summoned for 180 seconds, and it's a summoned magical sword that lasts for a limited amount of time. As you can see on the screen here, it does 28 ethereal damage, impact of 12, and attack speed of 1. So this sword does a lot of damage towards ghosts. Now, if you have the Runic Prefix passive skill, then it's going to also give you something called Divine Light Imbue, which is weapon deals some lightning damage and emits light. So your sword's going to look cooler, and it's also now going to do lightning damage. If you have the passive skill Arcane Syntax, which allows you to cast more combinations, you can cast orange to purple again, and summon a Great Runic Blade, which is a two-handed sword. Casting orange to purple for the second time after you've already summoned the one-handed sword is going to give you this two-handed sword called the Great Runic Blade, which does 39 ethereal damage, has an impact of 19, and an attack speed of 1. If you have the passive skill called Runic Prefix, your two-handed sword is going to become more powerful by gaining something called Greater DK Imbue, which is 180 seconds of your weapon now also dealing DK damage. This is what the two-handed sword looks like in action. Now on to the final two spells. The first one is a Runic Lantern. So casting green to blue summons a Runic Lantern, which initially is only for 300 seconds. As you can see here, it's a magical light that does not occupy a hand, can be combined with more runes. Now if you get the Runic Prefix passive skill, you're going to get a more stronger lantern, and it's also going to be for 450 seconds. So this skill gives you good light, and it allows you to cast another spell, which is going to be the Lightning Bolt. Once you've casted green to blue and have this lantern little ball above your head, you can now cast green to orange, which is going to fire a lightning ball at your target. And that looks like this. So this is a pretty cool lightning bolt, and as you can see, it shoots pretty far. When you cast it, it does not consume your runic lantern above your head, so you can basically keep spamming it as much as the cooldown allows you to, which is pretty fast. This is what it looks like in combat. Okay, so let's go back to the skill tree and just talk about these passive skills real fast a little bit more. So the middle breakthrough point for 500 silver is called Well of Mana. This increases your maximum mana by 40. That's pretty basic as to what it does. I don't have to explain that at all. Very nice if you're using a lot of magic. The skill above that is called Arcane Syntax, and as I've been saying, when you purchase a skill, you now are able to cast more combinations of runes. So those initial 2 that I explained how to cast, then you can cast 2 more after that, like such as casting the Lantern and then casting the Lightning Bolt after you've cast the Lantern. So if you really want to be a rune mage, you're going to want to go up the tree and get Arcane Syntax for sure. Now at the top, on the top right, is the passive skill called RUNIC PREFIX, which I've already talked about as well, and it's going to buff your current spells that you have right now, making them a more powerful buff or making them more powerful like it does with your two-handed sword and your one-handed sword. If you don't really care about getting that buff, or you don't like carrying around the book in your left hand, which is called a LEXICON, you can get the internalized lexicon, which reads as, removes the need to have an equipped lexicon in your offhand to cast runic spells. So if you grab that spell, you can now get rid of this book that I'm carrying, and you can put anything in your offhand that you want. You can have chakrams, you can have daggers, you can do anything that you want. Okay, so that's it for the Sage class, or the Rune Mage. A very powerful class. I hear many people say it's actually OP, and some people don't recommend it for that reason because it almost made the game too easy for them. Once you memorize the runic combinations, you're going to be a straight BA. So thanks for watching, guys. A couple more class vids are coming out soon, so please subscribe. I've already done, I think, 4 classes, and I'm going to have a couple more kind of more funny type videos coming out as well. Peace!